Okay. Okay, welcome. This is our Washington State Building Code Council work group for economic impact for August 18th, 2025. We don't have quorum yet, but we I guess can take roll of those here.
And then Annette, you got the roll call?
Yeah, sorry, I had it blocked and couldn't get unmuted.
And that
Okay, Todd Baber there.
here.
Shell Anderson.
He's also locked.
That's
Yep.
it.
I see him.
I'm here.
Okay. And Angela Hopt, she
Hmm.
accepted and then sent tentative, so I'm not sure. Dan Young said he was going to be late. Ben Omura.
Here.
And Katie Sheehan declined. She was not going to be able to make it. So we are one short at this time of a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think this is probably good just to keep up the frequency and touch base. And even if it's just for a few minutes, we can kind of get a strategy, see where we are. Maybe we, Dustin, if it's okay, just to pull it up, your spreadsheet that you sent around, and
Yes.
we can make sure that if everyone's first looking at it here, we can talk about what we need to do.
So, looking at this spreadsheet that we got here, this one's posted for the meeting as well. The main difference that you'll see on this one versus the other code logs that we've seen so far this cycle is
Hey,
that
Dustin, sorry to interrupt. If you're sharing, I think it didn't.
I haven't updated the share. Give me one moment. All right, thanks for stopping me before I got too much steam built up. But so what we see on the screen here and is posted for the meeting is a spreadsheet of the proposals that have been moved to the CR 102 by the council, with a couple exceptions that I mentioned at the council meeting last Friday. If we scroll down, we'll see some gaps in here. This proposal number 114 went to the council with a recommendation to consolidate it with, I believe it was 038. I could be that proposal number might be wrong, but the council sent both proposals back down to the BFRW to clarify which one is being recommended for adoption. And the other one that was on the table for review had less code change language in it. So that one was denied at the BFRW, and this one was passed back up. At the meeting last Friday and other business, I mentioned that this particular proposal doesn't have a motion from the council to move it towards CR 102, but that's the intention that I'm expecting to have from the council at our next council meeting. And so I've included it in this spreadsheet for a continued discussion as we move forward. And then one other one that's not moved all the way there is this fixed guideway transit one in uh looks like at the it was referred to the correlation committee in March by the BFRW, and that correlation committee never formed up. And so this one's also lacking the specific approval by the council back to CR 102. So there's two proposals on our list here that I think still deserve some discussion today. If we can get to them, but we need to have some official council action towards CR 102 on those. Beyond those ones, we got the IABC. These are all trimmed down to just include the ones moved to CR 102. No discrepancies or things that look different than the rest of everything on the spreadsheet there. Same for the IFC. These are all just moved to CR 102. Anything that was denied is not included on the list. And same for the IMC. And sorry, also the IFGC. We may notice also that the commercial energy code is not included in today's. I thought we had our plate full discussing what we have here as well, but the commercial energy code is going to have a little bit of a different tack as far as what we're trying to accomplish here for the work group. The commercial energy code will have a contract that will help us evaluate the cost benefit analysis portion of that, but that contract isn't going to cover the small business economic impact statement of that. And so as we get through what we have going here for group one, we'll be looking for some input to help us generate our small business economic impact statement for the commercial energy code, as well as the residential one as well. But I was commercial's a little bit been approved a little bit longer, so I wanted to take that one a little bit ahead of the residential. Um, so before us, we've got two reports we're trying to gather information for. Today is designed as a preliminary look at what we have going here for the different codes that were in group one, and to try to get some input for our cost benefit analysis, and then also for our small business economic impact statement. And the way I view this is, in order to get the meat and potatoes of the cost benefit analysis, we'll have to run through the small business impact work a little bit before that. And so I've got some stuff pulled up in the Regulatory Fairness Act, RCW, to talk about what the small business economic impact statement does and what it's required to have in it, along with what we have going for the cost benefit analysis, which, is, in my opinion, a simpler statement to comply with. It says, affirm that the benefits of any proposed rule changes outweigh the potential costs of those rule changes. And so you'll see on these sheets, and I'm kind of going to go a little bit out of order, but I have the work group of economic impact rating on here, and I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 scale on there. 3 being the middle of the road where we have no impact, and then we're trying to identify minor and major decrease and increase on the cost there, as a way to potentially flag these for additional input and questionnaire dissemination to the public. And so I have a column for flagging for additional economic input. If we look down this column here, there are some X's in here that I have highlighted. These came out of a BFRW meeting held around March or April. And I just brought those into this document. This one's for embodied carbon stuff. We all know that one's going to affect small businesses and has some cost associated with it that we need to get some more data on to do our reports properly. And I don't think there's one more here, the EV charging infrastructure one we had flagged for economic analysis when it was the 3 proposals that came from the public. And this one's just a token to mark the one that was prepared by BFRW as well for economic input.
Charlie, you
Bring
want to
back
jump
up.
in? Sorry, Dustin.
Oh, no problem.
Charles, a
Interrupt
question
me.
for you.
Sorry, I've missed the last 2 of these, so maybe I've missed this. But when we talk about costs, what are the parameters for what we're supposed to talk about? Because there's obviously first cost to a builder or an owner. There's operational and maintenance costs, and then long-term costs that future owners and tenants will bear based on this and that and the other thing, insurance rates or costs, and lots of kinds of costs. So when we say cost, I want to at least understand what statutorily or in other ways we're bound or encouraged to consider.
Well, when it comes to the cost benefit analysis, let me pull that over here.
Okay, so this is specific to the cost benefit analysis.
Yeah, well, so there's cost associated for small business, and that's outlined in a little bit different fashion than what the cost benefit analysis report's supposed to have. And so um if we were to search for this one for cost benefit analysis, this would pop up in here. Uh, come on. Okay, I'm in the wrong chapter. Give me 1 second and I'll find it. Shell, you still have your hand up, and I'm just waiting on me?
Yeah, I'm waiting.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead, Dustin. While you're doing that, I was had a couple questions for people.
Was this
Um,
328, by the way? Dot 328,
I
3405,
believe so.
328.
I'm just trying to make sure I catch it all in here. 328. Here it is.
mhm.
Thank you, Chell, for popping that number out there because I was struggling in the hot seat. So this is, as far as the cost benefit analysis, this is the um section that gives us what we're supposed to have in here. And it's not as spelled out for us as it is for the small business economic impact statement. But in general, the probable benefits are greater than probable cost, taking qualitative and quantitative benefits and costs and specific directives of the statute being implemented um, as a way to try to organize our thoughts on that. I was thinking direct cost, like cost of construction, cost of compliance during the build out, and then indirect costs, which might be insurance costs and maintenance and upkeep type costs like that down the road. But there's not a real hard map for what specific costs we're trying to look at. But there's some more spelled out for the small business economic impact statement, which will kind of cover some of that as well.
Okay, thanks.
And Todd, you said you had some questions for other folks.
Well, as we're going through it, I think the 5-part, if you go back to the spreadsheet, the 5-part rating, I mean, it's obviously a good tool to flag this, right? A suggestion might be that we go -2 to +2 is one way to think about it. But if everyone's okay with 1 through 5, that's okay. Do we need 5? Could it be 3? Right? This is just a tool for us to track this and communicate correctly. Correct?
Correct. And the reason I have minor cost versus major cost really relates further to the small business economic impact statement. So if it imposes no more than a minor cost for all of that, we have to justify it, but we also don't need as robust an amount of work for our small business economic impact statement. But then if there's a major cost imposed, we are directed to attempt to reduce that impact on the small businesses. And there's a suite of pathways to do that.
Okay. That makes sense.
And so, in as far as the other docs column, that one's a relic column that was where we had any supporting documents that what came along with these proposals. So there's not a lot, but several of the proposals came in with some economic data as well. So I didn't want to exclude that from our, having it at our fingertips. And then the notes is where I'm hoping to kind of expound on the benefit versus the cost statement there. And then when it comes to the small business, there's a lot of data gathering that, in my opinion, that goes into the small business impact and whether it's disproportionate or not. And I think that as we move through these and we identify whether or not that there is a cost or no cost on here, that's going to inform where we get to on the small business impact, because until we get some questionnaires out to small businesses, we're not going to have the data available to actually make that call in a way that will withstand any sort of scrutiny. And so as we run through here, I'm hoping, I don't think that we're going to have the time today to read each one of these proposals and say whether or not the cost is high. Getting into the proposals themselves, there's not a lot of economic data that comes in with these. Going back, looking at proposals through the different code cycles, it's historically something that we've been getting not very qualitative data on from proponents proposing these changes. And so, this is a big step up in the process for the SBCC to validate, why and how we're doing our rule changes. And so, at the last one of these meetings, we were asking for tag chairs and staff to run through these and try to get a preliminary look at what the costs are here. I didn't get too far on my review looking at them. As I go through and look at the proposal sheets, I do rely mostly on the statements there that are from the proponents, and try to evaluate whether or not those statements are accurate. And in this first bit, I did find them to be, accurate, but I know there's some out there that as we look at them, they don't feel like no cost is the answer there. Chell?
Is this a new legislative requirement, or is this just an effort to better fulfill legislative requirements?
I'll say newish. So in 2018, along with the fee increase to the permit surcharges at the jurisdictions, the SBCC was written in by name into the Administrative Procedures Act, and Krista's on here, but and correct me if I'm wrong, Krista, but prior to the SBCC being included in the APA as it is currently, the Code Council didn't produce small business economic impact statements. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct. We just did the small business economic impact statements and not the cost benefit analysis.
Oh, sorry, I got it backwards. So
Yeah.
So and it's not necessarily new that the council should have been doing this. It's just new that in 2018 we revised our policies and procedures and wrote in these reports into those WACs as well. And it's newish, and they tried to revamp it in the 2018 code cycle. And Krista, did we catch much heat from those in that code cycle? I know that in the 2021 cycle, there was a request to repeal rules based on the content of these reports.
It was more that just people were having a hard time reading them because they were individual reports for every proposal and just done as Excel spreadsheets. So they were difficult to internalize.
Right. And, as I go through here and look at the tools and guides and things available from the state on doing this, let's see, the Office for Regulatory Innovation and Assistance has a website for guidance documents for the government. And so I think most of these documents don't necessarily give us a step up in the game, but one that I wanted to share with you guys is the Small Business Economic Impact Statement template. this template is designed for a rulemaking authority, making like one rule at a time. And so when Krista said that they had individual reports for each individual rule, I feel like they came to the Oriya and pulled this template and said, okay, how do we get this going? So we got some boilerplate stuff there, but we're supposed to describe the proposed rule, including these items, run through and get some business codes for businesses and industries that might be required to comply with these rules. This is going to be the information that tells us where to send any questionnaires to gather information. This is the section 3, the information that we would hopefully get back from small businesses and other industry stakeholders alike, letting us know what the cost of the costs of compliance are going to be. We have some additional costs, which might be some of those indirect costs we spoke of earlier. Section 4, analyze whether the proposed rule may impose more than minor costs on businesses in the industry. These are this is direct from the statute language, these columns in this table here. And you don't have to use all of them, but you have to use at least one of them as as the way you're illustrating the cost to small business. And so we would get hopefully information from large industry stakeholders and small businesses. If we don't get sufficient data, though, $100 can be the default minor cost used if data is unavailable. In some of the example reports by other agencies, they've used the $100 because they're not getting great information back from their survey efforts. If in section 5, they make a determination on whether or not the impact on small businesses is proportionate or disproportionate. And in section 6, this is the methods in which we might try to mitigate those costs on small businesses by, trying to accomplish A through F in there. And I believe section 7, it's a description on how we're involving the relevant stakeholders in this process. And, if we were only doing one code proposal, using this template would be great. We could run through and just fill it out. But just like Krista said, if you've got one of these reports that covers all this information for each code proposal, reading each one of them that might be in an Excel spreadsheet or, however it was done in the past becomes a burden for everybody to digest. So in 2021, and I'm not sure about the 2018 documents, but the 2021 documents were synthesized into one document where we tried to cover all of these sections per code proposal. And a lot of the information was just carried over from the code change proposal forms. And I think that, the lackluster information that came in with those proposal forms, along with not a lot of deliberate information gathering by the council, led to some of the scrutiny on these reports at that time. Chell?
Yeah, there's a question, I guess, about is a rule all the code proposals for a code, or is a rule each individual code proposal? And it would, I guess my intuitive understanding would be a rule would be all the codes combined, or at least all the proposals that would affect a code as a rule.
That is a question of like how we do this in the best way, most economic for time and staff input and all that. And the idea to do it as a by code basis or by proposal basis has been discussed a little bit. And the complexity of covering the code as a whole, I think, is the main detractor from attempting the by code method. And while it seems like a lot of information gathering, I think focusing on each proposal renders the task a little more doable, but even though it's repetitive.
Okay. And then when PNNL did a cost benefit analysis of the 2021 Washington State Energy Code, for example, commercial, they focused, I think, on the 9-ish, I think, proposals that they thought would have a more noticeable cost. And then they found, I think, all of them to be cost beneficial. But is that the idea that we would do these forms for the most, those that would attract the most cost and benefit, or for like every single proposal in the whole, in every code? Because that just seems, I mean, some of this is paperwork that's seems a lot of work for the benefit of the actual paperwork. The cost benefit of the paperwork doesn't seem to be there. Trying to help you and staff
So
do the
what
best
I'm
job.
hoping that comes out of these preliminary meetings is that we can affirm yay or nay that proposals do or do not have cost impact. If we can say that a bulk of the proposals don't have cost impact, we can wipe them off the slate and they'll be included in the reports, but they won't need any more robust questionnaires or deliberation and chewing on the topic by this group. The ones that are flagged for additional input, the plan is to try to engage the proponents and other interested parties in a questionnaire type process. And it was my hope to have a questionnaire developed at this point in the process, but the meetings are picking up in frequency, and I'm struggling to dedicate the time I need to develop that questionnaire. But yeah, I don't want to do it on every single proposal if we can vet the ones that have cost versus no cost and whittle down in that fashion first, and then we have a process to kind of follow where hopefully we're gonna reach out to folks and get great information back. In the event that we don't get that information back, hopefully some listening sessions and other meetings where we bring in the public to discuss their concerns on these, we can gather information that way, and then we have to move forward at some point with the information we have and draft these reports. And Patrick has been a great resource to sound things off of in this process. And so I'll call on you, Patrick. You have some input?
Yes, thank you. I agree that the CBA and small business economic impact statements only apply to the non-editorial amendments that you're making, since for most of the I codes, you're adopting it by reference, and the APA says that it doesn't apply to that. The energy code is the outlier because that's not adopted by reference. It's entirely its own thing. And so there's changes in there that are substantial compared to the current WAC that are not from proposals, like through the integrated draft or the committee changes. So you'll want to make sure to identify those as well.
And so, working with what we have, I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Krista or Chell, you guys were more closely related or involved in this one for the 2021, but they took the big, the proposals that had the most impact on cost for the code and focused there, and then tried to clean up with anything that came in a descending order after that. And then we ran out of money for that analysis by PNNL, and then that's where that analysis stopped. Is that accurate, Krista or Chell?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Okay. So, we're relying on an appropriation from the legislature to do that analysis for the energy code. And you know, if their contract runs shy on money and we have to then look at this for any leftover proposals, I mean, we can add that to the list, but then again increases that hill we're trying to climb right now, or steepens it, I should say. Go ahead, Chell.
Yeah, I guess I don't necessarily agree with Patrick if he's suggesting that integrated draft elements need to have a cost benefit analysis. And then I'll also add that the energy codes have different cost benefit requirements statutorily than the other codes. They are to be the least cost pathway to reach the 70% energy use reduction, not necessarily that they are inherently cost effective. Now, almost everything we've done in the energy code has been cost effective, but it's got a different RCW section for the cost and benefit.
Chell. So, Patrick, go ahead.
Yeah, it still applies under APA rulemaking, and so because it's not adopted by reference, the entirety of its own thing. It's not the IECC adopted by reference as amended. So there are changes in there that don't come from proposals that are significant, not just editorial changes. So and yes, there's some additional things under the RCW 1927A when it comes to cost benefit, but the APA requirements still apply. So you'll still have to have CB on that. And then if there's anything potentially that could affect the small business economic impact stuff, you'd want to flag that to get survey responders to be aware of that, just so that they don't have to look at the entirety of what I'm assuming will be a 200-page rulemaking document and go through it themselves to figure out the big things.
So as we look at our task in front of us, you know, the energy code has been a beast of a different nature, just, you know, by the fact of what it is and how it's put together. But I didn't intend today's meeting to really focus in on the energy code. I do realize that we need some focus there, and hearing the comments, you know, I would like to, you know, maybe at the next meeting discuss further exactly how all that applies, and maybe see if we can get Dirk here to weigh in a little bit. I don't disagree with either of the statements that Chell or Patrick made. I would definitely like legal to weigh in on if the process that we're embarking on now, if there are gaps in it that we need to try to fill. Go ahead, Ben.
Thanks, Justin. So I guess for like the mechanical code, and I'm assuming for the bulk of the group one proposals, I'm anticipating that most of these are going to be identified as having no cost impact or cost reductions typically. So like for the mechanical code, for example, like I did a preliminary review and I didn't see anything that would appear to add cost or have any kind of small business economic impacts that would be different, except on the side of having really a cost reduction potentially. So I guess for if we find that and within our work group we come to the conclusion that yeah, we don't see any, or there's maybe like a small handful of proposals that would need to be analyzed for this set of group one codes. I guess you're thinking it would make more sense to send those out as individual items for review and survey potentially, or I mean, would it make sense to say here's the proposed mechanical code changes? The committee has found that there don't appear to be any cost or small business economic impacts, and then have a simple survey asking for respondents to indicate like if they agree with this, or if there's any proposals that they find would increase costs for them in their review.
I mean, in a nutshell, that's basically, yes, what I would like to do is
Okay.
go through, sniff them, and then the ones that we say don't, we can send out a separate package and say, we're finding these proposals don't increase cost and any benefits that they, I guess the cost associated with them doesn't outweigh the benefit, and to seek any sort of disagreement on that statement. And anyone that we do specifically flag, we're looking to catch, the reasons why it is impactful to those parties.
Gotcha. And I guess as a follow-up, and Patrick mentioned this as well, like my understanding is that we do not need to request survey feedback for any model code changes that are being adopted by reference as well.
Correct.
So that is, I think, a nuance where the model code may be introducing new requirements. However, we're not looking for that feedback to come through.
Correct. And I mean, there might be some related, things that come in as a result of that, but like Patrick said, if we're incorporating by a reference the rules that we do in that manner, which is just all the model code text, are not subject to these requirements that we're looking at today.
Thank you.
So supporting Ben's comments, it seems to me that, surveys are a good option in some cases, but can't we also leverage our technical advisory groups if necessary? That we go through, I was going to go through the IBC, screen it just like Ben did, try to capture my memory of the conversations that were had, and then flag, and then if necessary, try to bring them back to the tag if it was helpful.
I think that, the technical advisory group so far has been running on the method of we're looking at the specific code language, not necessarily anything else so far to date. I think that group is also well provisioned to understand some of the economic impact a little bit more than, say, staff only. And so I think leveraging the technical advisory group, leveraging some survey opportunity, and a combination of the above is going to be the way to get the information. But I think one of the big things in the end is going to be vetting as much as we can the content of these reports through the public before filing. And there's no reason we can't do the preliminary cost benefit analysis is one thing that gets finalized as we do the CR 103 and final adoption, but there's no requirement to do a final small business economic impact statement unless we're requested to by the AARC or JARRC. I can't remember the specific acronym, but the JARC. And so if they requested us to do a supplementary one, we would be required to do that on anything that changes for CR 103. And but I think it would be a little easier for our timelines if this wasn't required to be filed as part of the CR 102, if this could be a preliminary cost benefit analysis and small business economic impact statement. It would be easier, but that's not what the statute says. So we've got to get the final small business report in there by October 1. And so that's the hard part is how do we do this, engage the tag, send questionnaires, and get this back and get the input in time to draft it by October 1.
Okay. So Dustin, is our intent today was to go over this. We don't have quorum. Should we? I guess we have Dan now.
Yeah, he just popped on. I was going to mention it.
Yeah. But what would you like to? Is this kind of the introduction, and we will, as tag chairs, try to run with each one of the codes to help?
if this could serve as the introduction and we can get through and do the sniff test that we've been talking about on here, that would be huge if we can get that down, and that gives a little bit more time for a questionnaire to be developed. You know, I'm planning on using basically this report and any of the other guidance documents that Araya has to get a questionnaire that's going to work for the task at hand for SBCC. Pretty much chopping up what they have and hopefully getting it out there so that it can be applicable to more than one code proposal potentially, and giving some folks some options there. But I'm definitely open to ideas and suggestions as we move this down the road. I'm planning on using Patrick as a sounding board for the questionnaire. He's graciously, volunteered to help disseminate out to their organization. But I also want to engage other organizations if at all possible via the website, via Gov Delivery, and anything else that seems a prudent way to gather the information. And my one fear is that we get too much information back and that it's a lot to sift.
Yep. Okay.
So
Go ahead, Tom.
Dustin, are you suggesting that as the Energy Code Tag Chair, I should begin filling out a spreadsheet on all the energy code proposals with a 0 through 5? Is that the request?
I mean, for the energy code, that was not kind of my vision for this moving forward. The energy code is different. We have the contract out there, hopefully covering most of our basis for this. The task that we're trying to do for the energy code is to identify the impacts to small businesses and come back with that. And so
Okay, I was just trying to get a jump on it if I was being asked to
I
do
mean,
something.
I would love to ask you, but I also don't want to ask you because I don't have a clear ask for you at the moment.
Okay. Oh, Yeah.
Apologies on that one.
no, I appreciate not. I don't want to get unclear direction and do something that's unnecessary.
Yeah.
There's a lot of proposals.
And there's a lot of proposals and, everybody's got, this is all volunteer work here. And so, as we move forward down the line on this, it's really, this is the major part of our public engagement that I feel has been kind of lacking in the past. And if we can improve upon this and plan from what we learn here for our next code cycles, I think that we've got a major growth opportunity in our process.
Okay, well, I will commit to the IBC in the next week before our meeting next Monday, and I will filter through those and try to get a high level filter and from my memory, and then dig into the ones I don't remember. But that's the task, 1 through 5, right?
Yeah, and I'd like to provide you with a little bit more metric on the 1 through 5, but I don't have that
No,
show
I
here
think we
today.
talked through it a little bit. That was valuable. Unless anyone likes my idea of -2 to +2.
I have no preference. If we do -2 to 0 is the baseline, it doesn't bug me any if we want to change the number system a little bit.
Anyone care?
I don't care.
I
My
don't-
only suggestion would be, I think the one that says no impact, I think could have a more nuanced language about, like, nearly no impact or negligible impact or something that's, it is hard to argue that anything has no impact at all, but having such a minimal impact that it's not important, might be a better way to phrase it.
Agreed. And I guess when we're looking at like the major cost decrease versus the minor cost decrease, I don't know if there's really a impact beyond just the reporting, because I don't believe those trigger any specific action for us, correct?
I don't think so, but on the major versus minor, I wanted to give you guys some like a threshold or a way to evaluate that without having to dig too deep.
Got it. Okay.
Well, and I think you did. I mean, you walked us through some of the other documents of $100 threshold or, X number of hours. And so I think, it is a multivariable calculus problem. So that's why it takes experts to screen it. And then if we need more information, then it's not always binary, right?
Yeah. Since we do have Dan here, do we want to run through the other approvals and stuff that we have for this meeting for just approve the agenda, run through the minutes real quick, and then
Sure.
reduce the overall workload for any follow-ups?
Sure.
Okay. Annette, could you pull up the minutes for me?
You want the agenda first to approve?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ben.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda. That sounds good.
Thank you, Ben.
Second- I'll second that.
And Shell, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? The agenda is approved. Number
And-
3 is to review the minutes from August 6th.
Right there.
Thank you.
Short and sweet.
Yes, it was. Hear a motion to approve.
So moved. This is Dan.
Second. And
Thank you, Dan and Ben. Any edits?
did Katie come into the meeting at some point? I'm trying to remember.
Not today.
Or I guess at the previous meeting.
Oh,
If she showed up, let me double check our file on that.
Okay, that was
think
the
she
one
did.
question I had.
Yeah. I don't remember if it was that meeting or was the RFW.
I can go back and check the attendance sheet. I wasn't there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think she
Well-
showed up, and I'm trying to pop in to. Here's our participants list. 1 second, I'll have it. No, Katie never made an appearance at that last meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. No other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And any opposed? The minutes are approved.
And I guess that brings us back to our topic we were discussing already.
Yeah.
As we move through this, it's my sincere hope that we can be most of the way done with this by the time that the IRC and UPC work wraps, because that'll bring a new component back that we're kind of starting fresh at that time. One thing that I'm wanting to see done at the tag level is some of the flagging that we're talking about doing right now. To see that happen at the tag level, that way we can just jump right into hopefully sending out the questionnaires instead of coming through and doing another looky-loo.
Yep. Makes sense, especially in the IRC.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion on that agenda item? Is that good, Dustin?
I think so. If we're all going to break out and go do that, then I think for the most part, my task ahead of me is to get the questionnaire ready for next week, and run that by Patrick. I promised that to him last week, but didn't get it to him. And then have that ready so that if once we flag these, hopefully we can run through the whole spreadsheet that we have right here. Next meeting, we can send out questionnaires hopefully starting next week and get the ball rolling in a major way.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I think that was a good touch base this week. If there's nothing else on 4, any other business for the group?
No, sir. I want to look into and talk with Dirk a little bit more about the energy code and make sure that we don't have any gaps that need to be filled.
Okay.
But I'll follow up with that and then we can discuss further next meeting.
And we're scheduled for next Monday. I might be a little late, so just a heads up on that.
Okay.
I'm presenting somewhere else. Okay. If no other business, then thank you. We are adjourned.
Thanks all.
All right. See y'all later.
Thanks.